Yeah, sure. How do you keep plugging along without plugging along? How do you do that? We're plugging along here, chugging like an old choo-choo train and taking it on the next track.
An undisclosed location. I'm with Dave Frotten. Stay tuned.
Everybody, I hope you're all doing well. I just wanted to say a quick shout out and hello to a lot of friends that I haven't seen in a long time, and some friends that I'm getting a chance to see this weekend. Make it count tomorrow.
Okay, here we are in Kitchener, Waterloo. Dave Frotten and I are with Pastor Anthony here, and we are here at his church, Bethany, and we want to ask him one question. Do you, Pastor Anthony, see any signs of revival in Kitchener, Waterloo at Bethany Church?
Hey, Greg, Dave, good to see you guys. Thanks for the honor, just kind of hanging out for a few seconds here. Revival is a loaded word. I think the price for revival has to be paid. I think God will bring about revival. But let me tell you, we may speak about a place where there are no tears, no fears, no death, no sorrow, and we're talking about the benefits of heaven. One day we'll get there. That's the most important thing about what revival should do is point people to a future in heaven. But in the meantime, there's the beauty of heaven, and that's relationship with Jesus. And so if we're only thinking about one day going to heaven, that's the initial part of revival. But the most important thing is intimate relationship with Christ. That's where revival begins, and that's where revival will actually blossom. So yeah, there are beginning signs here at Bethany Church because there's people who are developing an intimate relationship with Jesus, and that's what it's all about. And I only have one hope. I'm with Jesus. He is Lord, and that's it. Thanks.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come one, come all. I've got a great show for you today. As you saw just now, we went all the way to Kitchener, Waterloo to ask Pastor Anthony but one question. And he certainly gave us an answer to remember. But today, it was Dave Frotten and I that journeyed, that started our journey towards revival. And our starting point was Kitchener, Waterloo. So with me today is none other than Dave Frotten himself, here to tell us all about revival. Dave.
Hey, Greg.
How's it going?
Good to see you again.
Yeah,
it's going pretty good.
Yeah. How's your hockey team doing?
Yeah, it's just not so good. Fortunately, I live in a great hockey town. So
yeah, where are you now? People know you from Toronto, but you're now where?
Yeah, I mean, Toronto's always always wonderful. I actually just got back from the city, and now we're up in actually a little town called Frotten, which is right outside North Bay, Ontario. So, we're like December, so we already have kids playing out on the lakes. It's not like the city where it's all green grass, No, it's good though, Greg, and my hockey team's not doing great, and my boys' hockey team's doing great, so it's all good.
There you go. Neither is Oshawa. I'm now. I used to be in Toronto with Dave, but now I'm in Oshawa. So we are seasons ticket holders to the Oshawa Generals, and our team had a very, very slow start, but we did win the last 2 games. So that was kind of exciting. But
revival, Greg, right there.
Yeah, that's it. You and I went on a journey from our little small towns, and we went out to see Pastor Anthony in Kitchener, Waterloo. Do you want to give us a bit of everyone a background story on how that transpired, how we even got to that place of thinking about going to visit him?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, you and I have been, around a long time together, and it was kind of strange to just end up on a phone call one day, and then all of a sudden, we really felt like it was a great time to go out and see Pastor Anthony Does, who happened to be kind of my youth pastor, at one point, and I never forgot how amazing those years were. And, I can understand that, pastoring a church these days is a lot different, right? There's cameras everywhere and clips of you doing, whatnot and say what. So it's fine. I really, really just felt like through the conversations you and I were having, this is just one pastor of several, but definitely one pastor that was close enough that I could just go and jump in a car and just end up there, obviously without telling him, because that's the way I roll. And we, I knew that you and I were on the same page about this, little excursion to his church, when, there was just no pressure, no stress about it. I know this sounds a little strange. Most people might think, you jumped in your car and drove an hour and saw somebody, so what?
No.
It's the so what of that story that is why we're still talking about it, a little bit later to the timeline. It was really just a great trip, and I think that you and I, we just owed some what I'm going to call real FaceTime with him during the the continuation coming out of the COVID lockdowns, and I think you'll agree it was really cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, it started. I mean, basically, you and I connected for the first time in a long time, right at the beginning of COVID there, and we had been
Yeah.
talking for a long time. And I really do think that this trip was conceived in both of our hearts by the Holy Spirit, like absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. And it really was an interesting journey because as I just pulled up there just before we went on air here, it started where you said we started. We started with Pastor Anthony at Evangel Temple Church at a youth group called Toronto Youth on Fire with Pastor Anthony. And I met you. I guess I was driving up. You were having a dinner with your dad, Gerald Frotten, and I think you were celebrating his birthday. So we planned to meet up where it all began at Evangel Temple. And
Right.
it was so funny to see that. You know how to pronounce it much better than I do. Something to do auberge pommier. It was fun to see that restaurant once
Yeah, that's
again.
pretty good.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you said it right.
And it was right across the street from Evangel Temple. I don't think I ever went to that restaurant. I probably couldn't have.
Same.
I don't think I could have afforded. Now you and I need to go.
Yeah, we'll get appetizers because we can only afford to look at it.
No, I spoke to it is expensive. I spoke to a guy coming out as I was waiting for you and your dad, and he was like, "Oh, it's not too bad," but like my wife. Yeah. When I told her the prices, her eyes went out of her head. And I'm like, yeah, it's once in a lifetime you do those kind of things. And I just feel like because we know about that restaurant, we've got to go now. Maybe we'll go and celebrate after I get my second short film off the ground. You and me will go. just bucket list kind of thing.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think it was one of those sort of we hopped into a car and went. I really believe that the Holy Spirit led us and directed us to go together. And I'll let you take it from here. And as it turns out, and especially looking back, it was a very impactful trip, and it also involved not just Pastor Anthony but his wife as well. But go ahead, tell us your version of our trip up there, hotel the night before, getting snacks from the concierge. Tell us whatever you want to share.
Yeah, no, it really was a great trip, man. And oftentimes I wonder, like how do I really hear God's voice? Like I've asked myself that before. And I know a lot of people, some that I was in church with, some that just don't believe at all. I always get these different kind of descriptions and interpretations of it. Some people just think it's, the voice in their head. Some people think it's the voice in their heart. And I might be on both sides of that. All I knew is that with Pastor Anthony, something, there was a bell ringing inside. It just felt like I couldn't shut it off. I'd pick up my guitar because, that I play, and I would start strumming, and then all of a sudden I'd be thinking about him. Or, I would think about the days where he was on staff pastor at another church I went to, and it just all basically boiled down into, like God telling me you need to be there. You don't need to tell Pastor Anthony you're coming, which kind of kicked off our little adventure with him a little bit different. But I think it was cool to just, drive out there with you and get to talk to you. And it had really been a while since you and I have kind of spent that time together too. Right? It was different.
Absolutely.
But Kitchener-Waterloo is an interesting place to be able to have that church going, and just showing up and having a kind of relaxing night in the hotel, and yeah, we bugged the concierge, and maybe they thought that whatever. I'm not really. That's just the way Dave behaves, you know. That's they don't like me in the hotel chain sometimes, but I think it was cool just to, you know, go to sleep that night and then think, you know, what's about to happen when we go to this church and walk in, right?
Well,
I didn't even know.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, man. No, I'm good.
I really felt that it was more like you and I would have these conversations. I don't know, in the beginning maybe it was like every other day or whatever, but I really felt that like we were both in tune with what the Holy Spirit was telling us, very similar things, and it was going on for months.
Yeah,
And you'd say
yeah,
something and I'd be like, "Oh my God, let me share what he
yeah.
told
Right.
me," and then I'd tell you, and then you'd be like, "Oh my God, well, yeah, God told me this," and it totally kind of aligned, and we're like, "Oh my gosh," and it was so good and so refreshing because we hadn't been to church in a long time, and to sort of be reminded or get that kind of um confirmation, like undeniable confirmation that we're both hearing from the Lord, and he's kind of sharing very similar things, and he's and that's why I was like, oh, for sure God's telling us to do this, because we're both getting the same messages for the same reasons, the same motivation, and revivals on our mind, and yeah, we went. And one of the things I enjoyed about being in that hotel was also just being able to, I love the breakfast, to be able to have like bacon and eggs. So I wanted to make sure that we got
Sure.
a good breakfast in before we went to the church. But yeah, I was very, very excited. And you and I actually, do you remember I still, we should play it. I still have the footage of, we didn't want to tell Pastor Anthony we were coming. So
Yeah.
we pre-recorded this sort of interview that would document this journey, because we felt it was really important to sort of archive this, because this is like, it really felt like the Holy Spirit was leading us there. And I eventually even said that to Pastor Anthony when we were doing the meet and greet coffee time. I think he was a little bit frazzled, but before I get into that, but I think he was a little bit frazzled, and I looked at him and I go, no, Dave and I feel that the Holy Spirit wants us here right here right now is God, and even the message. Right. But before we jump into that, do you want to play for my viewing audience, do you want to play the little, I think we were goofing around with some intros and stuff, and I can put a little of that together, and then I kind of let you kind of share your heart. Like, this was probably the first thing we did coming out of COVID, or very close. What was it? It was you and I said it was June 13th, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, was that the day we left, or the day that we went to the church? Like, I don't know.
I'll have to look up, make sure what the Sunday was, but
yeah,
I'm definitely fine with seeing those outtakes again. I remember doing them. I don't remember everything that was said, so be nice, but yeah, I'm fine, man.
I think, well,
was
yeah,
really cool.
and Dave did sign a performance agreement. He signed it. I get everyone who comes on my show to sign that agreement, because I don't want anyone coming after me afterwards. I didn't say to. No, but it's really good, because you are very definitely in sort of a very reflective place, and we're coming out of COVID, and we're thinking how churches were shut down, and you were just very raw and very real. And I just tried to ask you some simple questions and let you go. And I think you said some really good and heartfelt stuff. So you don't mind if I play that video clip for them?
No, it's cool, man. Yeah,
all
let's
right.
see it.
Let's roll that clip. We'll be right back after this video clip.
Guys, like I said in the earlier video posting, you'll know later on what we're up to here, and Greg of the Greg Who Show and I have been friends for a lot of years, and we just decided it'd be great to look up some some friends and just show up and say hi and let them know that we're still here and still want to meet and I hope that you're all doing well, and I understand that for a lot of people it was a tough couple of years, and but don't let it run you down. Everybody's got a thing, and our thing is to rise above it. So we're actually here in beautiful Kitchener-Waterloo to actually kind of surprise visit a pastor friend of ours, Pastor Anthony Doze, who has been just a constant thread in my life. I know for sure. He's just one of those guys that I could pick up the phone and talk to, and it seems like the conversation never ended. So, people aren't optional. People are God's currency. He did a lot, to buy us, and he wants us to appreciate each other. So, it's just a good time to be a good person.
Okay, as you know, we're here in Kitchener-Waterloo with my friend Dave Frotten. We go way back. And Dave, when did we start talking again?
I would say a couple months into the COVID shutdown. I get a lot of time to think, and I just started thinking about important things, and in some cases just strange things that were part of my past, and just kept coming up. So I think probably mid 2020 we just picked up the phone, and there you go. We started talking, and it's been a couple years already. We've just been sharing, and
we did a song.
Yeah, we did a song, and yeah, that's true, actually.
Georgian Bay. Dave and I were very productive with Lisa Durette. We did a song of my good friend. Well, she was more like a mother, Pat Mitchner, and she wrote a song called Georgian Bay, and we got Lisa Durette involved, and I got Dave involved, and I think the song almost killed you.
Well, first of all, Lisa did a wonderful job with it, and kudos to Miss Mitchner on the lyrics. It was a passionate song, and I'll call myself a musician, but just being a songwriter myself, I was thinking, how do I make this happen so that kind of a more contemporary voice and a strange guitar player musician could make it work. So the song was golden, and Lisa did a great job, and I did hear the final product, which was cool, Greg. Like, you did a great job. But yeah, who would have thought that Georgian Bay would have been the topic of many stressful COVID nights. I know all the lyrics. That's all I'm gonna say.
I can't believe I actually was a part of a producing team of a song. I never even though COVID was, depressing and all kinds of things that we don't need to go into. Yeah. I found myself doing things. Well, I started the Greg Who Show again, and I found my creative juices started flowing again, and I guess that's how Georgian Bay. We had too much time on our hands, and I'm sure Mrs. Mitchner had too much time on her hands, and but it also got us thinking about church and how to move forward as a church, because Dave and I go way back in a youth group. I think I can mention Evangel Temple at York Mills and Young, and a lot of you still follow me on Facebook, so we're all sort of interconnected somehow. But Dave and you and I started talking about what church is going to look like. So I just want to pitch that to you. How do you think the church is going to move forward after COVID? What's changed? What's going to change? What needs to change? How do we move forward from here?
Well, it's a very big question, and I'm not going to pretend to say that I even have anything that's close to the answer, but I do have I feel some things very strongly. I'll be the first guy to admit that I'm not a part of a full-time local church body. I've done some things in the past ministry wise. I had met some wonderful people, particularly musicians. Serving in worship ministry for so many years, I had so many wonderful experiences with great musicians and so many great worship services where I can't even explain what it was like. And I feel like maybe COVID put some stress on churches to how they were going to keep certain things just happening, right? Um, but I think the step moving forward in my own life is going to be just making those connections with people again, outside of the full institutionalized connections that I used to make on Sunday morning, which were important. I mean, I loved seeing people come out in their full Sunday dress and do their thing, but I love, just calling up old friends now and saying, "Hey, you okay? Are you good?" I hear, different stories about people, and I think the long answer here is I'm passionate about some things for the first time in a long time, and I feel like as the church, as people start coming back to church, I think that this entire episode of closing down and not being able to see people, or having everybody in masks at church, which I did attend a few church worship services during COVID. It was a strange experience. The lights went down and everybody had black masks on and the worship started, and I was like, whoa, let's move this out to the parking lot for a second and turn on the lights. And what I'm trying to really say, and what I'm excited about now, the people that I consider friends in the church, out of the church, people that I did music with or worship with or ministry with, I just really feel like there's a consistent message now, which is we don't want to be away, we don't want to be strangers, we're ready to make a bigger commitment to it with our lives, because we understand that it can be fragile a little. So the way forward for me, and I know, Greg, you and I have talked about this a whole lot, is, what? We're the church. We're the walls. And as great as church buildings are and as much as they can do, it's us, right? So when we look into our own lives and ask forgiveness from God, and even forgive ourselves and forgive other people, and God knows that I have a list, I have a dirty laundry list like everybody else, but that's what makes it so great when we recognize that the step forward is it's just that it's that first step, and it's okay if things are new again for us, or things don't seem as comfortable as they did. And I'm talking from a church point of view. Just take the extra step and get out there and do something like call up a guy that you haven't talked to in 20 years and just make it important.
Well, you and I were getting, when we would phone on the phone, you and I would start talking, and it was like the Holy Spirit was speaking a lot of the similar things, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's no way you could know this. And one of the common threads that I remember that you and I got was that we need to start uniting again, and love and unity with the brethren. And that's kind of what we're doing here this weekend. We're reaching out to Pastor Anthony, and he's at a new church in Bethany. And I don't know, Dave, you sort of had the words to sort of express why you felt that the Holy Spirit was bringing both you and I here. Do you want to explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Like you said, Pastor Anthony, who it's just him. He happened to be our pastor a long time ago. I mean, this is a guy that I think in my first service going back to youth group, whatever, he walked over to me and handed me a microphone to pray during an offering or something. And I'm like, what on earth? You don't want to hear me say this. Like, and he believed in me. So I think the simple way of kind of expressing, why we're here, he is an important part of what I feel going forward kind of looks like in my own life. He's done a wonderful job of kind of keeping a message alive and
transitioning.
He's done a wonderful job of transitioning to, kind of online services and doing these great interviews and posting important, pieces of his own journey. So, yeah, I just feel like there was a connection. There always has been, and now was the right time to just let him know that we're very, very thankful for what God did, in our lives through him. And more specifically with me, him and his wife Sonia, who were part of a church that I was part of, and they shared some amazing things, did a lot of amazing things for people. So, I really feel like God just, and we were talking about this, Greg, I got to go see Pastor Anthony. I got to see him just once, live. I love his Facebook Live posts and everything, but I just need to see him, feel his handshake. I need to see this man again. And the reason being is that, he was important for me, because I've, like everybody else through COVID, I had some interesting lows, let's say, just some times where I was all Job before God, like, what's happening here? Why are all these wonderful people being, held back, and, is this the end of the church, and all these weird things I had. But on the other side, it really gave me an opportunity to, in hindsight, to look back and think, there's certain people, certain even pastors that have changed me.
And so we came down here to honor him, show him respect, and even take him out for lunch. We're paying.
Yeah, I mean, it's time to reciprocate that anyway. I'm pretty sure he paid last time.
Yeah. No, and actually, I guess what Dave and I are saying and doing is sometimes we think about people and we think about we got to go see them. Sometimes, as Dave said to me on the phone, sometimes you just got to stop priming and thinking about it and just go and do it. And especially if you feel like the Holy Spirit's dropped something in your heart and he's tugging at you, and it felt like the Holy Spirit was tugging at both Dave's and I's heart. So we're here in Kitchener, Waterloo, to see Pastor Anthony at Bethany Church, and we'll see him tomorrow, and we'll report back to you.
Yeah, I can't say it any better. I'm excited.
All right, and we are reporting back to you now.
Awesome, Greg. And, I'm still excited. It's it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Cut.
Yeah, okay, let's go.
You were delayed there.
Am I delayed? Oh.
No. It wasn't a technical delay. It was a Dave delay.
How do you know that? First of all, it's called the digital Dave delay. And second of all, okay, let's go. I'll be with you.
Okay. And now we're reporting back to you.
And I'm still excited, Greg. I'm still excited.
You still have, what was that? Is that like a musical C-La?
It is.
You've got.
I go into a song after. I'm still excited. Still excited. Still excited. I'm still excited. Everybody say hooray.
This was take 2 because Dave had a major delay the first time we came back from the video. Yeah,
It's the cut.
It's Greg Who, and I'm representing and sporting stevestea.com for all your loose leaf tea needs. And actually, Steve has actually got an Indiegogo campaign on the ticker below. He's trying to open up a tea room, and he will at the end of the day finance it, but he wants us all to be a part of the communi-TEA, and he's inviting us to support him. So go ahead. I think I'm going to do it. It's at www.igg, which is Indiegogo, me at Steve's Teas, and support. You know what? It's in Brantford. You can, so you might not be able to go out and enjoy the tea room when he finally gets it made up. But you know why I support some of these Indiegogo campaigns, and I know Dave, you're similar. Like, you're just supporting someone else's dream. So that's good seed. If you're sowing into someone's dream and helping their dream come true, that's money well spent. And after COVID, I think we all have a new attitude of supporting local, supporting small business, and supporting one another, preferring and honoring one another. So go check out stevestea.com. You can order loose leaf tea, and they'll send it to you in the mail. And my wife and I enjoy it immensely. And go and check out what he's doing with that tea room. And even if just throw $20 at his dream, and when it comes your turn, someone will do that for you too. So go ahead and do that. So sorry about that. But you reminded me. We both are sporting our representing mugs, right? So
I was gonna say, how much tea have we drunk together in our lives?
Yeah.
We probably saved about 4 businesses already at some point in our lives, right?
What was that? What was that tea place called we used to go to after? Was it after church, or what was it after? We used to go quite a bit.
Buddy.
Cafe Cravings, and that was in the old neighborhood near Leaside, right? Mount Pleasant and Eglinton. Was it Mount Pleasant and Eglinton?
Blueberry tea as good as they come. So hopefully Steve's Tea's got the blueberries, because I'm gonna order. Sorry, it's a bad joke.
No, it's okay. It's okay. There's plenty of room for bad jokes on the Greg Who Show.
Good, because I got plenty.
So now, in hindsight, looking back at the quick little interview in the hotel room, which it was a very nice hotel room, by the way. Dave and I split the costs and shared a room, so it wasn't too bad. So it was good. So in hindsight, I can tell you're like, we're both coming out. We're both a little squirrely. Looking back, good. Like, you're better now. You're better now. You were raw. You were raw back then. COVID wasn't.
Well, maybe I'll touch on that in a second. But obviously, if we're still talking about that little outage, and from the hotel rooms to the car rides to the wonderful lunch that we had with them, and even to the car ride home, where the
Mennonite farm.
Oh yeah,
the line of horse carriages.
I'm like, why? I'm driving, not saying a lot, but every once in a while I see my head turning out the window, and I'm like, why does this car wash have parking for horses and a car wash? I'm like, this place is awesome, It
was literally Mennonite country.
Yeah, and I have a big appreciation for people that are able to just kind of slow down and live by what they love. And I think like everybody, and this just ties right back into the story with seeing Pastor Anthony and in his new church. At that time, it was new to me anyways. I hadn't been there, and
I'd never been either.
And but it's amazing to watch the years go by, and to watch pastors that I love hearing, just to watch them kind of hone their craft, right? And when he got up to speak, I was like, wow, I needed this message. First of all, he happened to be preaching from the book of Jude, which is the smallest and biggest thing going. Like it's
big, what did he call it? Big answers for a small book, or
I think it was something
for big
like
answers.
That. Yeah,
It was
and
great. It was great.
yeah, it was amazing just to see him, and almost not have any of the history there. Like it's been a few years since I've heard him preach, and I still remember so many great messages. But just to be there and listen to him, hear his voice, and obviously, just shake his hand or get a little hug. It was great to just be around people that were all still excited about the world and ready to move on, and um, and of course you mentioned the little coffee break piece and such, but this was kind of an after church. The people just gathered around in their little meeting space.
No. Let's
And
begin. Let's begin at the beginning, shall we? I'll
okay,
say.
I didn't know how much you wanted, but
Yeah. No,
it was a great
we'll say
talk.
it. We'll say it. We'll set it. First of all, I walked in and the ushers are doing their job and they're greeting us, and they're the old fashioned men with like the stronger a handshake you can get, the more of a man you are, the more honest man
Yeah.
you are, and I decided to play into that whole thing. And say, you still serving breakfast? And he thought I was he thought I was serious for a minute and did a double take.
Yeah.
And then I cracked a bit of a smile and he went, you. And he was the
Yeah.
same guy that actually sang that really simple song. I forget what the topic was, but I don't know if it was about God's grace or what it was about, but it just kind of packed a full punch, because it wasn't his singing talent, but it was the heart behind his lyrics and the words that really packed a punch. So he really was a man of God. But with that being said, let's get to the fun part. You and I were ushered by these beautiful ladies. They ushered us right up to the front, but they off to the side, right? And
Right.
at first, Pastor Anthony, he was kind of doing some double takes and doing the old. I think he was.
Yeah.
I think he was a little taken aback, or is like, is this a mirage, or do I see Greg and Dave here? He actually interrupted his sermon and kind of looked at us and said, "Am I in trouble?"
Yeah. It's true.
As if he was haunted by some ghost of the Christmas past or something.
Yeah. We should have answered. We should have answered for sure.
I was kind of
But-
like, what are you talking about? And he was ghost white. He's like, am I in trouble? I'm like, not that I'm aware of, buddy. You tell me.
Yeah. Never with me, man. Never with me.
So that was kind of funny,
Yeah, it was a good opening to the rest of the afternoon for sure.
Yeah, and then he was
Yeah.
able to proudly say that you and I still serve the Lord, that we were in his youth group, and everyone was relieved that there was no shenanigans going on.
Yeah.
That we were
That was
still,
nice
we
of
were,
him.
yeah, and no, that's it. No, but that's true. You and I are still serving the Lord, and you're still writing music.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And yeah, I mean it was wonderful to see him, and I guess I somewhat apologize for scaring him, but that's fine. I mean, it's not like the cameras weren't on anyways for whatever's going online. But the greatest thing about that was the message was wonderful.
Mhm.
The service was wonderful. You mentioned the gentleman that had sang the song, and I'm not even sure what that song was, but it takes some character sometimes to get up in front of a church, especially, and sing something that's touching for people. And they had a little brief kind of retirement announcement for another lady in the church, and everybody kind of was really nice to her. And then it was beautiful, because afterwards I'm thinking, yeah, they could just dismiss this and we could all go Sunday home, in our Sunday best. But it was nice because, like I said, they kind of gathered for this little meet and greet, and people were sitting around tables and having coffee, and then all of a sudden I realized, Pastor Anthony had invited us to say hi in a more, casual kind of space in his office, and I saw you guys leave, but there's no way I was going to leave this conversation I was in. And
yeah, you were a social
I'm pretty
butterfly that day. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got some of the late looks from you guys at some point too, like, peeking through the doors saying, "Is this guy still here?" But I mean, those conversations I shared with you a little bit. They were wonderful to have, and
Yeah. Well, I think
yeah, and then
Pastor A
of
was still
course,
nervous. You were telling his congregation some shady stories of his pastors.
no, I'm sure that he was fine, and I think he knows me enough by now that
No, I'm just,
if
I'm
I'm
just
if I'm
teasing.
gonna come, yeah, I know, but if I'm gonna tease, it's gonna be real time, probably right in your face, and that's kind of some of the things I love about him as well. He's, for me, specifically, he's always been pretty great.
Yeah.
With just the way he talks to me, and but yeah, that day was super special, and the entire church piece was wonderful, and we did have this great little exchange back and forth in his office about the book that he wrote, and I won't get into it now, but if you ever get a chance, just look up Pastor Anthony Does in the book that he wrote. And it
Blurry. I
was
believe it's
wonderful.
called Blurry Daydream.
Yes, yes. And yeah, it was just interesting to ask him, the questions we did, and to hear his responses, because he was free to answer any way he wanted, but I knew that something he was going to say was going to make sense to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have jumped in my car and drove there and shown up and surprised him. I knew that there was definitely a kind of a word in season there, right? That was ready to be shared. And man, wasn't it? Because when we left his office, I felt like we were starting a climb on a mountain. I didn't know where it was going to go, and this sounds kind of very exciting for a little simple road trip. But
It was.
if I was to tell you everything that happened, and I won't get into everything because some things I hold kind of dear and close, but
Yeah.
it really was amazing. And I'll just be very honest. It's been a long time since I teared up like that. That's all I'm going to say. And that it was just me personally. Like, it was really real for me.
Yeah, well, I think even more so than the time in his office, and more so than his the sermon was very touching for me as well, because I had wrestled with corruption in the church and what to do with it and stuff, and I had been getting some answers in Jude. So for him to be speaking about it at a time where where we just happened to kind of go under the unction of the Holy Ghost was very good timing. But to me, where the real, I think you said you were impressed when he sort of knocked on the wooden table at the Mennonite restaurant and was like, this here is holy ground, because it really was in the restaurant having lunch with Sonia and Pastor Anthony, and you really sharing your heart, and me shutting up, which is a miracle in and of itself, and just the Holy Spirit just dropping at the table, and I just shut up because I'm like, God's leading this, so just go. And I think you ministered to Pastor Anthony and Sonia as much as you feel that they ministered to you. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about it. And it was in that moment that you really, if Pastor Anthony didn't believe us before that the Holy Spirit had brought us, he believed us in that moment at the table. Like, even everything with the exchange with the waitress, the people that left, like everything.
Yeah, those nervous people for a second. But that's okay. The waitress stayed long enough to sneak over with her bill and make sure that it wasn't getting weird. But it was great. I loved that conversation, and don't sell yourself short on being quiet. Like, usually that's my card to play. But that day was, just the way things happened. And I'm sure you could have said a million things, and I've heard you say them. I mean, we talk a lot, but it was just great to see Pastor Anthony, in that context, right? I got to see him preach, and it's wonderful. He's still great. but it was even better just to sit there with him and you know, hear his heart, son's preacher tie on, you know, just laid back and relaxed and yeah. When, I'll tell you what, when he knocked on that table and gave the little "This is holy grounds," I was a little bit kind of overwhelmed. Like it really kind of overtook me a little bit, because I thought he was coming with a message right there. Actually, I thought there was like a part B to that, but it wasn't. He was really right, because I think all four of us and everybody in that restaurant and everybody that, you know, is still searching today is going to find, regardless of where you've been, what you've done, you know. And I've said this a million times to you, you know, that gift is free. We can't earn it. We can't do anything but believe it. And that day there were four people who were really believing it and just sharing with each other, and it was wonderful. I still think about it all the time, actually. It was great.
Well, for me, the reason I was quiet is there was a holy reverence that God was speaking in the silence. Even in the silence, God's presence was speaking loudly to all of us and ministering to, and I don't even want to throw anyone under the bus, but you weren't the only one crying that day. You know, there was other people busting out in tears. And I would just encourage people, well, number one, following the Holy Spirit, because when you do, you know, it has its own reward when you're obedient to the Holy Spirit. And I think it helped us confront, even in not everything's been said and done, but we all have so much history together that it was the Holy Spirit that was confronting and pushing us. I'll say pushing us towards full reconciliation and or greater things to come, greater works or greater things to come. And I think some of the things that you and I kept on hearing from the Lord even before we went was that sort of the unity of the brethren, right? And there's some things that we just can't do on our own or shouldn't do on our own, or, you know, it's really with everyone's gift and calling are edified together. And I got a greater sense that in unity, dwelling in unity with one voice, with one purpose. And of course, it's always Christ focused and Christ centered. In that, there's there's victory, there's deliverance, there's healing, there's miracles, there's mission work, there's evangelism, there's the new church, a birth, you know, a new creation. I think we're going into a new season where some of the things that used to become more difficult and came with a lot of politics, I just think that they'll be done with so much ease in the future in a church that is more Christ focused and less church politics.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but probably don't have anything else to add right there, except.
But what did you get
I'll say? Sorry, go ahead.
No. What? Yeah, I was going to say, like, that's just, I mean, and you and I talked days and weeks afterwards, and they're just layer upon layer of stuff God revealing. It's like the presence or an impartation happened at that table, and that's just one little thing. But can you share one thing with us that kind of came to you through that whole experience, through the presence of God just hovering over us in that table? And it remained, the only way I can describe it, it was like an impartation that we were still deciphering, discerning, and reconciling like months later. Right?
Yeah. It was man, it was so real. I love those experiences where, you know, I don't walk away going, oh well, you know, this, maybe he knows me, maybe he doesn't. I wasn't anywhere there. And what I will say is that when I walked away from that table, just to boil it down here, I'm holding this receipt that the waitress probably avoided giving us for like 30 minutes. And it comes over full of butterfly stickers and smiley faces. And I was like, listen, waitress, if I was so tempted to just ask her if I could pray for anything in her life, right?
I know. I think that was a missed opportunity, but we ministered to her. There's no doubt.
I think so.
No doubt.
I think it was wonderful. But if I think if I had to single one thing out, it was just how easy the transitions in that conversation were, with some pretty interesting and maybe difficult topics to talk about, right? I mean, I know I was sitting at that table, at a stage in my life where it was cool to see a pastor that represented me from a different time in my life, right? But man, it was just so amazing. I'm going to single out one little thing here, and I was blessed enough to hear Pastor Anthony's father preach a message one day, and I remember a lot of it. And I brought up a little piece of this during the conversation with Pastor Anthony, and all of a sudden it was, it was like, it wasn't overly emotional. It was just, my dad and I are close, and we're, we talk about these types of things all the time. And actually, we just had a little worship night together at a friend's house, like impromptu. 2 guitars showed up out of nowhere. All of a sudden, we're, singing these beautiful songs, stomping on the floor. To have those kind of memories about your dad and, things that you go through, or lessons that you learned, or wisdom that was, given to you, those things that people don't forget. And I don't want to bring a lot of things up about Pastor Anthony's dad. Just I met him and he was wonderful, and I felt like I needed to tell Pastor Anthony that day. And that was just one of 50 amazing kind of recollections or truths that came out that day. It was great, and it was just wonderful to hear some honest answers, right, to some questions that we came up and asked. And it's not, they didn't leave us completely in the dark. I mean, we got some pretty good questions anyways about what we were doing. And I think 10 minutes of that lunch was just us convincing him that he really wasn't in trouble, right? It's like, there's nothing going on. We just, it's all good, Pastor. It's all good. It was good. So no, it was a fantastic trip.
Felon's guilt.
Yeah.
Get you every time. Felon's guilt.
Yeah.
No,
so
we really were there. Yeah, we were.
Great.
It was an honor to be able to bless him and say, no, we're not like I even said to him in the office, I said, we'd love to go out for lunch with you, but we don't, just like, don't feel obligated. Like, I realize we came from Toronto or we came from Oshawa, but like, I don't want you to feel obligated. Dave and I already talked about, like, if you're busy or you've got stuff going on, we don't want you to feel any obligation. We just wanted to be here and bless you and honor you. And if you had time to do lunch, we're more than happy to pay for your lunch, and you're under no obligation to say yes. Like, everything will be fine, And as soon as I sort of said that, I didn't even get to say, like, as soon as I kind of said, like, we don't want you to feel obligated, he's like, okay, we'll go. And he's like, let me call Sonia, right? But but what I was expressing there was kind of what I was feeling to say, but I didn't get too far into saying that. He just, as soon as he knew that there was no pressure or obligation or political pressure, even churches pull some numbers on us sometimes, right? People come with strings sometimes, and we weren't there to have strings attached. We were just there to be a blessing, is what we were trying to get across to him. And I think Sonia was blessed to see us, because she hadn't seen us in a long time, right? And a lot of water under a lot of bridges.
Yeah.
A lot of different seasons.
I don't mind, Greg. Like, I really didn't. I wasn't. I just anticipated a great afternoon. That's what happened. But I don't really mind, or I haven't really mind people that come with strings attached. I mean, I get my guitar back here. I come with 6 of them everywhere I go, so don't worry about it. It's easy enough to navigate around them. And
By the way, the original Georgian Bay
right.
song, I've put that up in the cue cards there. So if you want to see Dave's and my song that you heard about in this episode about Georgian Bay, just click there and you'll see the original song. But yeah, and then I think
I like that.
and then I think we'll also have time later, unless you had anything to say now. Maybe we can take a break and show our original video that we tried to do during COVID with Lisa Marie Durette. But we couldn't, it was COVID, so we couldn't go on location and shoot. So we tried to do it remotely online, and it just came out like I was going to do some green screening with it, but it just didn't come out right. But I think it's cute to see it, and I think people might want to see it. So unless you had anything to add, or did you want to play a song on your 6 string?
No. She's taking a nap right now. I had her out, over the weekend, so yeah, she good right now. But that's not an official, denial of request. I know I signed the paper, so there's some great songs back there.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be this episode, but okay. Yeah. So let's take a quick break and show Lisa our attempt at doing a video with Lisa lip singing and my skill of lining up the lip singing with it. I think I did a pretty good job. But so here it is, Lisa Marie Durette singing our song, Georgian Bay. Take it away.
Georgian Bay, where the waves sang out a melody so subtle and so true that in those endless summers it became a part of you. So travel on and see the world, but however far you stray, one day I'll call you home again, back home to Georgian Bay. The years that pass, they go so fast. To an adult now you've grown, and life is full of care when you've a family of your own. But the waves still sing a melody so subtle and so true, and it calls you every summer, for it's still a part of you. So travel on and see the world, but however far you stray, one summer you'll come home again, back home to Georgian Bay. Summer's changed to winter and your hair has turned to gray, and the place where you were happiest is where you come to stay. Well, the waves sing out a melody so subtle and so true that you know you must return again. It's always part of you. So travel on and see the world, but however far you stray, one day you'll roll home again, back home to Georgian Bay. Yes, the water's clear as crystal, and the shores are silver sand, and you never found one one better though you traveled every land, where the waves sing out a melody so subtle and so true, that during those golden summers it became a part of you. So travel on and see the world, but however far you stray, someday I'll call you home again, back home to the bay, back home to Georgian Bay, back home to Georgian Bay.
So for all your loose leaf tea needs, go to steves.com, stevesteas.com. So what did you think of Lisa? She did a pretty good job, eh?
Yeah, she's I mean, maybe I'm biased about some certain, types of vocalists, but she's one of my favorite vocalists I've ever sang anything with. And there's, but no, she did a fantastic job on what wasn't originally the easiest song to put together, and
it was
but
difficult.
it was wonderful because I know Lisa, and I know that she knows Georgian Bay. It was actually very more appropriate to sing, like for her to sing, than you probably expect, or anyways, it was wonderful. And
well, no. She grew up in her childhood was in Georgian Bay as well, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, a lot of summers were definitely there with friends and such. And I don't know all of it, but that particularly recording that was fun with her, and just trying to give my experience musically to it, and then have her sing Circles Around Me. I'm like, maybe I'll stop singing now and just give you the responsibility to the vocal part. I don't mind playing the guitar and being a little musical, constructive person here, but yeah, I'm not going to sing with you. So she did a great job, and it came out well. So.
Yeah, the reason I picked her was because I do remember her back. I don't think I ever heard her at Toronto Youth on Fire, but I remember she sang, because she was a Covenant girl, right? Mm-hmm. So I remember her singing highly anointed praise and worship songs at Covenant Church, and that is very memorable, and that's why I picked her. I don't think she's really interested in pursuing music anymore, but I think she sort of enjoyed doing the song, and once we got through some of the tough stuff, she's like, oh, okay, it turned out all right, because it had its challenges, right? But we met those challenges for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's where this new not to bring it up and not to kind of oversimplify it, but we've all been through kind of an interesting couple of years, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
In the middle of those couple of years, I've had some amazing things happen, and I've seen some things I just never really thought I would see. Not again, but not in a fresh way. So some people really surprised me in the way that they decided to not get not just be kind of overrun by the fact that things were strange at that time, right? I was very impressed by a lot of people who just, took a deep breath in and navigated their way through things. So, you know, people like, and not that this song was, you know, going to change the world. That I don't know, maybe it'll be the Georgian Bay theme songs or whatever, but it might go there. But all I know is the experience of having the lyrics pop up and, you know, seeing the musicians that actually joined in, you know, in the, what do I call it? The, you know, the online rock band. It's like, I've never been in that before. It's like the Zoom All-Stars, you know, it's very hard to play
on Zoom Ensemble.
Yeah, it's exactly what it was. It's like, I don't even, you know, I don't even understand, you know, string like fiddle or cello or any of these things, and now I'm playing with them, but I'm like 2 steps behind. I'm like, I'm rewriting the science right now. It's great. But I mean, it was great to have Lisa there, and just, you know, I'm always impressed when she sings. And it was great to work with these musicians, and it was great to actually hear the song being written, because it's a simple song, yeah, but it definitely has so much of somebody's experience in it, right?
Yes.
Like, we're all gonna whatever, experience some wonderful things, and then we're gonna grow older, and it's what you hold on to and the way that you decide to take that, you know, that experience into the future, right? So I think this is why it was so important, just to get back with Pastor Anthony and things that you and I saw this summer. I think that those were kind of underlying pieces, right? You know, I have 25 years of wonderful experiences and memories. I'm sure that there are some, you know, interesting, maybe not great to hold on to memories in those 25 years, just speaking from, you know, going to churches and being with churches and such. And hey, maybe, you know, maybe half the time I was the problem anyways, but I love the fact that, you know, I'm at a place, and hopefully we're both at a place, and the people that we reach out to are experiencing kind of the next step forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm definitely there in my life. I mean, I would love to be able to, well, I told you this, and I'll share it really quick. You know, I was thinking, how should I get involved with music again? Speaking of Lisa, or speaking of people that I know that, you know, I've been doing music with forever. Well, you got to remember, your job might have been just shut down. Maybe you were one of the work from home whatevers, you know, that apparently everybody works from home except the guys that cut trees around here. It's different. So, and that wasn't a shout out to anything. It's just, for some people, particularly the musicians or artistic forms in general, it was rough. It really was rough.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, while other businesses were given a little bit of leeway to be, you know, to be open, given, you know, I can't think of a better word, not really open, but half open. I don't understand why we couldn't put musicians on a stage somewhere and, hey, you know, you're not getting front row seats, you're getting mid row seats, because nobody's allowed to talk to each other, but you're still going to hear it. I decided the best way for me to get, you know, to be part of the church scene again, because I wasn't walking into a regular, you know, family church every Sunday. I couldn't. Nobody could, really. And that being said, I will say, during the, you know, the lockdowns and all those things, which I don't even feel great about talking about now. I feel like it's, you know, I just feel like it's in one hand out the other. It's not that I really had control over juggling the things that happened to me or to you. But I did make a point of going to a couple churches when they opened briefly, and I remember walking out saying, man, something's changed. And I didn't know what it was. Some of it was scary. In Canada, you had to ask some questions, some kind of hard questions. And I know you and I talked about this. You know, we lived through a couple of years where we've seen some amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, from governments and, you know, owning things that happened that may not have been their fault, but definitely it was time for things to be said and for people to be heard. my heart broke to turn on the news and see churches burned to the ground, and like, why is that happening? That's but just to come back to the original point here was, I decided the best way for me kind of to serve the church, and it's one of these simple verses in the Bible. If you want to be call yourself great among people in the body or the church or just in life, then you need to bring yourself down to a servant's position. I love that verse in the Bible. First will be last, last will be for however you want to say it. The truth here is that, if Greg shines, or the Greg Who show shines, and Dave has a hand at all in that, then we both win. Like,
right.
It's part of the process here.
Right.
Like, I love your nice suit, but I don't care. That was kind of where I was at in life right then, right? And I'm talking church, I'm talking business, I'm talking whatever. Dave, that's just not Dave right there. And
yeah.
But yeah, so I decided that I do have a talent, and I do play guitar, and I've been part of some bands, and even had kind of leadership roles in church and some music groups, and I just thought, I'm going to tell God in a prayer that if he'll send me somebody to teach guitar to, I'll do it for free. I'll be completely, I'll do it the right way. So it happened. God sent a high school student. I know his parents, had a great talk with his parents, told them what I was kind of doing. They thought I was a little bit weird about it, like a free lesson. Where are you coming from, right? And I'm like, no. There's no catch, but here's the catch. I eventually just want to say, listen, I'm, to the student I'm teaching, whom I met for the first time on Sunday, by the way, after like 4 months of teaching him online. I got a chance to go to his church, which is down in the city, and he was strange. Like, I didn't even need to go looking for him. We knew each other, and it was cool. So, I talked to his parents. I said, I'm going to do some lessons for free. And they said, oh, my son wants to learn. And so this ball starts rolling. And I got to mention to him, like, here's the reason why I'm doing this. And I kind of felt not insecure about it. I felt like it was, I was just hoping I was hearing the right things. You know what I mean? Almost like getting in the car with you and driving off to this church I'd never been to. I'm like, what if I show up there and the guy's not even there, or he's not even preaching? It's like, I run the worst case scenarios through this, movie film head of mine all the time. Anyway,
I didn't have a shadow of a doubt, by the way. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, neither did I in hindsight, 2020, but I learned how to trust myself a little bit more in things that are being said and things that are happening in my life, right? Some lessons learned really, really hard along the way, but this particular one, teaching this young guy guitar, it was really cool in the way that this interaction happened. And to watch him play, to watch him be disciplined and be really good, actually, was great, because I got an opportunity just a couple weeks into it. I realized that he was going to be a great student, great guitar player and such. And I told his mom, I said, I'll do it for free. I would just love him to see, help out in like his youth group to some extent, which, 3 months into it, I get this message saying, oh, the youth group is starting to form a whatever group and, trying to get a worship ministry together, and he's going to be there. Like, he actually played in his youth group, which I thought was amazingly cool. And she thanked me. She's like, oh, the time with you, he really likes it. And, you've prepared him for kind of the next step.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I kind of feel people are are right now in life. You know, we were all kind of running on autopilot for a long time. And now I am speaking just about my experiences with church, you know. But now I have a feeling like people had their feet planted either by, you know, by default or by design. God's doing something.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth here is, you know, we all need to take next steps. And here's you know, here's a version of mine. It's, I mean, you know that we talk a lot. I wouldn't even be able to summarize these conversations into like a book. It's phenomenal half the time. But it's strange because 25 years ago, you and I were sitting and praying in a car somewhere about how we wanted, you know, things in Toronto and Canada to be better, right? And that's happening right now.
Yeah.
And it just ended up looking a little bit different than the way we did. But
Or
listen,
how we got here. Yeah.
But you know what? It's you know, sometimes when like I just mentioned, sometimes, you know, we're just cruising along, and I hate to kind of use this analogy, but you know, cruise control isn't forever. Like,
yeah.
You know, if the cops need to pull you over to tell you to smarten up the way you're driving, then, you know, cruise control's coming off. And we're all going to get a little lesson in and I think we did get it. I'm talking about, you know, my life as a believer. If I was to tell you, Greg, the people that I've met since the first phone call we had in this like spring, summer of 2020, it really is amazing. Just the way that people's lives and my life and the conversations with you just intertwine. And I don't tell you everything, but you hear half the times I don't need to.
Yeah,
because I get these calls,
snippets here and there. Yeah,
you know, I get these calls where I haven't talked to you in 2 weeks, and you say the exact same things I do. You know, when that happens, it makes it easier for people to take a step, because that's, you know, God. It's amazing the way He networks people together, and then with you, I mean, I've been able to, you know, to just be proud of it. I feel like I'm proud of, you know, the bond we have and how it's, you know, extended to other people.
Right.
And
we're in revival.
It's really cool. Yeah, it really is awesome.
We're having our personal breakthroughs, and we're edifying each other. And like one of the things you were just saying, God was sharing to me in a different way. It's like, Greg, you're going to be used in such a way where you create more opportunities than you take yourself. And essentially that's what you just said, right? And that's going to come with more ease. And we're having our personal breakthroughs, and we are in revival. And I'm not saying that revival only happens outside of church. I'm not implying that at all. I look forward to the day when the brethren gather together and we've brought our individual experience of breakthroughs and revivals, and the brethren gather together, and like coals, the fire starts burning, right? And I look forward to that day. I'm not one of those people that's like ecclesia outside of the church. I'm not saying that at all. I know that, as you keep saying, you know, the church wins, right? It may have had its problems, it may have had its hiccups, it may have had its corruption and its troubles and stuff, but at the end of the day, the church is going to win, and breakthrough is coming, and revival is already here, right? Even if it's only in individuals, it's here. And I'm sure if we, you know, I've often thought, like, I wish some of our streams that we all have on YouTube would just come together, and we'd see this rushing river of people that have breakthroughs and revival. And so that's half of my job with Greg Who, is I want to interview as many of those people that are in revival. And I sometimes see secular people in revival, and they don't even know it. The Lord can use them.
Buddy, the world has learned so many things. Like,
Mhm.
you know, if and I won't get into that whole thing, but you are right. I see it. I do see it in a lot of places, not everywhere, but I absolutely see it. And I'm, you know, revival is in my, if I had to answer this question, you know, that you asked Pastor Anthony earlier, his answer was beautiful. It was what I thought he was going to answer as a pastor,
Mhm.
but it was more than that, you know, because he kind of used my little catchphrase at the end about, you know, the church does win. And I'm not saying that it's a win or lose battle, right? Like, for people's hearts, I mean, God just wants us to pour into people. And to do that, you need a personal revival. It's
Mhm.
a whole bunch of personal revivals that God pulls together like, you know, like candlesticks and lights them all up. And then all of a sudden, if you put that into a church, then your church lights up too.
Yeah.
I've been there. I've seen it. Some of the best pastors I've ever known in my life are experiencing it right now. And it's amazing. It's amazing to just see the change. I understand that it was hard for a lot of people. I mean, I wasn't there, but you know, it was hard for you and I as well.
Mhm.
Maybe, you know, maybe we didn't need to show it. Maybe we had a little bit of, you know, like kind of first world comforts that make it a little easier to stay in your house. But, you know, like there were a lot of times where I would talk to people and I could really hear, you know, the hurt, the cry in their heart, like, when's this gonna end? What, you know, what am I gonna do? What? And I thought it strange, and I'll just circle back around quick to my point. Um, you know, and I don't find it strange. I find it, and I'm speaking specifically about when I get on the phone or Zoom with somebody and they start talking about something that I was already going to talk about. It's just
Mhm.
something I want to bring up. And all
Mhm.
of a sudden, it's like, you read the book. I don't know where this is going. I love when that stuff happens
Mhm.
because I love the challenge of it. You know, I like to like freelance talk. I'm not writing down, I'm just showing up. You know, you're getting a handwritten copy of whatever the story I'm about to tell is. Don't even ask for anything better because it's just for you. I find that's the way God works in my life. With Pastor Anthony, he had this great answer to the revival question. You know, and at the end of it, he just said, and that's it. Like, it's Jesus and the message and the cross, and that's it. Like, you know, if all of this stuff faded away, hey, that's it. Like, okay, send me the T-shirt. I'm in.
Yeah.
That's
Jesus,
but I found that with a lot of people, man. And
Jesus is Lord. That's it.
yeah, I mean, that's, you know, that would have been like, if I would have written that into a song, you know, 15 years ago, people would have just been like, oh, well, can't you be more creative with that? I'm thinking, no. It's like a hit song today, you know. But he is true. He is right. And you know, I've had to pay some. It's like I feel like I've had to fight some crazy battles to think
Mhm.
how simple that is, you
Mhm.
know. And I'm obviously a different person than I was 2 years ago before whatever happened than I was 5 years ago. And I mean, when we first met 20 something odd years ago, I can see the progress in my life, and all these people have been super important in it, including Pastor Anthony, you, and you know, the people that we worked with. But you know, it's just started. That's what I love about it all.
Yeah, well, and I hope that you and I are setting a bit of a precedent of saying, hey, you know what? Might be hard to come back. It might be hard to come home. It might be hard to be the prodigal son or daughter, or there might be people that you just might not want to confront. But you know, the truth is, you won't
Yeah,
regret it when you do. You know, confronting things in the past or people from your past, it helps us grow, and that's I believe that's how God does it, right? And He uses these difficult things of our past, you know, and confronting them is the first thing that you should want to do. It seems like you want to resist it, but it's the best thing you can do, because the relief and the maturity and the breakthroughs and the relationships and the spiritual freedom and sort of the new level that you'll achieve and attain in God's blessing just beginning to flow in your life, where things now come with ease, is because you were able to confront those things. And you know, the reactions are not going to be as bad as you're expecting, because, you know, people have had years to reconcile all that stuff. So I think that, Dave, you and I have been challenging people to go confront that stuff from your past, no matter how hard it is, because it doesn't get better by not confronting it. It doesn't get better by not talking about it or dealing with it or reconciling it, you know? And we're supposed to, before you even bring a gift to the altar, you're supposed to reconcile those things, or the people that you have aught with, right? And so we need to do that. And you need to have the courage in Jesus' name. Find the courage. Ask God for the courage, because it's God's waiting on us. And it's just, I think that's where revival is, right? I really do.
Yeah, I can't say it any better. I mean, all I could think about when you were talking about, it's not reliving the past. That's not it. But part of forgiveness is kind of identifying, the issue. It's just the way it works.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird. Sometimes I'll call up people, and they don't even remember the thing that I'm talking about when it comes down to asking them for forgiveness. They're like, "What are you talking about, Dave?" My brain's like, it's like a good studio on tape, like once it's recorded, it's kind of there, and I can play back, and I'll just go back and I'll say, "Oh, don't you remember when, we were in this room and I didn't say whatever, or I told you the wrong, or
you're condemning yourself more than the other people."
But it's important because, and it's not the I didn't do it piece. Like, I feel God forgave me, so why would I not forgive you? It's obviously the way that this thing works, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, forgiveness is pretty open out there. Anyways, it's not just a church topic. People understand it. People say, please, Canadians especially, you get the whole please, thank you, I'm sorry, hold the door open. But it's wonderful when you get to do that with people that you've experienced some great things with, right?
Yeah.
But it's good. I mean, I guess the point I'm trying to make with that is, a lot of times we're looking backwards, and you are right. God is waiting. He's waiting for us to take first steps. But to walk through that door, sometimes I feel like forgiveness is your key.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not going to do it, if you're not going to reach out, and if you're too proud to say I'm sorry or to admit to your mistakes, especially in the church, because, we are held to a different standard. And guess what? I've had to say sorry to a lot of people for a lot of things I've done in church. But on the other hand, God's opened it up, and I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say, Dave, sometimes they just say thank you, and that's enough. It's like Pastor Anthony's, that's it. They call and just remind me that, I have I've put a lot into some churches and into people, and that stuff doesn't go to waste, because the people aren't optional. They're
right.
They're always part of the journey, good or bad, stuff that you remember, stuff that you don't. But God's wonderful. He keeps good accounts. And when he says, Dave, it's time to forgive, or Dave, it's time to talk to, Greg about this, or, ask Greg why his show's called Greg Who and not Greg Why. I do it.
And it's also, it's also true in the sense of, like, also don't be that person that robs the person of the opportunity to forgive you. There's no honor. There's no integrity or honor in just sweeping something under the carpet, and letting evil prevail for far too long. And as much as we walk in, a higher love and daily forgive people, don't rob people of that opportunity to finally be able to say, you know what, I've been waiting 20 years for you to say that, and I absolutely forgive you. And it's part of my healing to be able to finally say it to you, and for me to hear you say that you're sorry, that you realize that you did something that horrible or that wrong, and that you still love me or whatever. These things need to be done. They need to be said. Hiding, I mean, I love the sort of the hiding behind Jesus and the grace of God. Yes, grace abounds that much more, but reconcile, say the actual words, and just don't say, I'm sorry for that thing. Tell them why you're sorry and how deeply you're sorry. Let the healing begin. Don't rob people of the opportunity to forgive you. It's so, so very important. And I guarantee you, it's a one small part of revival breaking out. And it's a breakthrough for everyone, not just one person. It's not just for one person like it's been for so long, right?
That's a great way to put it, man.
I'm going to use, I want to use your,
I
want, what's that?
I said what you just described, that it changed me, the kind of person I am.
Yeah.
Just looking at it, not over examining it, trusting God that the conversation can be, at the root, it can be tender and honest.
Yeah.
Even though it's difficult. I won't lie and I won't say names, but I had a lot of interesting things happen to me just over the last month. And, all of a sudden, you get bad news and maybe you got to think about what you're going to say, how you're going to approach people that are hurting. But I made a phone call and, the person picked up the phone and I thought, hey, listen, man, I feel like I owe an apology from 20 years ago. And I'm not sure. I told them on the phone, I'm not really sure what it's about, though. Like, God just told me there's something that you need to deal with. And it starts with this apology and this forgiveness. And, I'm going to follow up on it. And I've been sitting on it for a few weeks now, thinking, like, I don't even know what it is. Like, what is it? Is there something inside me that God doesn't like? Because I know there's a lot of things that Dave loves, and they're crazy. There's a lot of things that Dave doesn't like. But listen, I don't know it all. I don't, but first steps, man. I'm willing to take these little first steps.
Yeah.
And the thing is, every time I take one, I turn a corner, and I'm like, wow, like I'm gonna step backwards, I think, or it's somewhat intimidating sometimes, but I'm happy that I feel like God's moving, not again, but fresh, especially in people that are looking for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're knocking at the door, guess what? It's gonna open. If you feel like it's too hard and there's no way through, no way out, then God's the way. Like he gave us these simple little, and to say, in today's day and age with what people are going through, are you looking for a way through or a way out? And I don't want to make that sound, like people are so desperate they don't want to try. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that, even in the absolute hardest times, whether you're a pastor with a church, whether you're a guy with a guitar, whether you're a father with whatever, just everybody and anybody. Things are different now, but it's wonderful to see what I'm going to call the beginning of that difference. It's, I realized something this weekend. I ended up in a church, in a church that I had attended before. Like I'm telling you, Greg, wall to wall, front to back, the place was packed, like uncomfortably packed, and not it was fine, right? So I was thinking the whole time, I'm like, this is so amazing. Like these people, are still coming into church. They're still committing to it. They're still building relationships. They're still, all the things that I thought may not be easy to do, and I'm sure that we've had this conversation before. I feel like it's a new time for the church.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very confirmed with me this weekend. I was at this church with my dad, and I was looking around, seeing kind of familiar faces after sometimes years. But I realized, on the way walking out, like it felt like I had just taken like a big breath of fresh air and let the breath out. And I'm like, oh, I get it. It's a new time for the church, but it's going to be the same old people. And it was strange for me to think that. But, those people that you made connections with, they're just important. And whatever you can do, whatever you can say, the opportunities you can provide them, the encouragement to be at church, and if that means that you're sitting in your basement with 4 other people and you're calling it church because that's what's happening, then go with what's happening. That's a great little first step. And I'm sure that 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 I'm like that. But it was cool. It was cool to see this church, and it was cool to walk out going, oh yeah, it's not the people I had a problem with. It's not it at all. And it's not the church. The church gonna do, comes out pretty good here. And I believe, I believe what Jesus said about the church. He really does love it. He wants it to be wonderful. So anyways, it was really great. And to walk out of there thinking, these people that I've known for 15 years are going to be part of the future of what church looks like for me. It's just not going to be the same. It's just not going to be the same.
I talked to you privately about this. I didn't belong at church. I was an outlier. Right. And I never felt like, in fact, I've been kicked out of how many churches?
I don't know.
And if I went to a church now and security came over to me, I think I would just look at them and say, look, I've been kicked out of better church than this, boys. I'll just walk myself out.
There you go.
I'm joking, but there's some truth to that. I mean, sometimes when you're used of God and you're a little bit different, or you're more of a reformer than a conformer, you get booted out of places. So basically what I'm saying is I kind of made this distinction, and I kind of got this sort of like, the church is the church. The business of church is something we've seen in the past, or the business of the ministry of religion, or politics, or church politics, or the church as a business, or whatever. Okay.
Right.
I'm not called to that, but you'd be hard pressed to find someone that really knows me that wouldn't tell you my love for Jesus is real. And so what do I feel called to? I feel called, I am a part of the bride of Christ. And I feel that we're at the precipice of the church business slowly being transformed into the bride of Christ. So I'd call upon the brethren and the sistren to get out there, without spot and without wrinkle. So get out the spot removers, get out your iron, because I think God wants to prepare his bride. His bride is being prepared, and we have to allow him to transform us, a new creation in Christ Jesus, like for real, not politics, a new creature in Christ Jesus, transformed by the renewing of our mind. Your mindsets cannot be business minded or politic oriented, or we can't do this because the politics won't allow it. We've seen that's not God. I hate to break it to you. That's not God. And you've been doing it for a long time. and you just didn't know that we knew it, right? Enough said. I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah, that's, okay. Yeah, no, I mean, you know what my herd will say about all that stuff, and I'll be honest, I've seen it up close and probably been a part of it, and but like I'll just go back and reference the little point I made. It's different for me, especially, but it's different when you walk into a church service, or in this particular instance on the weekend, just walking into the lobby of a church and having somebody come right up and throw their arms around you and give you a big hug. That stuff has nothing to do with how the church is run, or there are some very honest moments, some real moments when you have people together. And I would let some people argue that it takes a lot of work to put church on, and I get that, like, I really do. But it's not even, I'll be careful with the way I say it. It's of much more value to make sure that person that needed that hug gets it. And I know this particular guy, I've never stopped talking to him. So, I don't know, it's been 10, 12 years since I've seen him in church. And it's weird. I just, I had this hug, and I just, right out of my mouth, like, I couldn't stop the words. I told him, if you ever need to talk to anybody, I'm always going to be here, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't need to say that, but it was so honest. Like, it came from a place that I couldn't stop it from coming out. And yeah, but the way that you just said that was wonderful, because how simple is that message? It is simple, actually, but everything's simple when we have God, fighting the battles and working out things in our favor, and the restoring the things that we feel that were a burden. My new mindset for that, though, is church was never one of those for me. I could say a lot of things, and I'm not talking about church in general, Greg. I'm talking about I loved being part of these different congregations so much that I even served so much. But sometimes I feel like, people show up and it's wonderful, and they get their couple songs and listen to the pastor, and then there's no relationship that gets built. So, I'm just hoping that this new time for the church, after a very difficult time for the church, is going to put an emphasis more on people as being both the body, like you just said. I want to be part of the bride of Christ, the body of Christ. And, you and I've talked about this so many times. If we're going to be the new kind of foundational walls, as believers, just person by person by person by person, where people feel like they can, open up and share and ask for forgiveness and all these other things. I'm not saying that doesn't happen in church. I'm saying sometimes it's hard to really bring out in front of 200 people exactly what, how you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you're going through. But maybe it's a little easier in somebody's basement, with 4 people, and, we love each other, and it's just an open space and time. I'm happy that I got to walk into a church that was full, end to end. I really was happy. I was like, wow, this is amazing, because I just didn't think it, it may not happen ever again, or I might not just see it the way it was. And then I realized it was also different at the same time. And I won't get into the whole service, but it was very genuine. And even some of the things that I haven't really told a lot of people, maybe you and I have chatted a little tiny bit about it, got brought up. and I was confronted with it. And it was really cool, though, because God was asking me, do you really believe this, Dave? That was kind of what I took away from the weekend. Do you really believe it? And then they reminded me, like, it's easy to believe it. It's a simple message with very complicated details. I'm not watering it down, but it is a simple, and it's free. We can't earn it. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, it was great, and back to the whole, trip with Pastor Anthony and the things that I saw from that trip. I think it was just amazing driving back, on the highway in the car, and not saying a word, but still feeling like a conversation was happening, trying to digest whatever we just saw, whatever we just experienced, because it'll open you up a lot, right? When you see somebody kind of be real around you, and that's what that's what I love about Pastor Anthony. It's not every day I talk to him, but listen, when I talk
there was some genuine, honest moments. Yeah,
but yeah, it felt like the conversation just never ended. It just, and I love that, because we don't have the kind of abilities to be able to do that. I can't remember 20-year-old conversations about, some important things, but God has a way of just reminding us who people are and what they're about and why they're important. So, that was awesome that we got to see them, and awesome that we got to do the song with some people and meet new people. And, at the end of the day, you take away the good experiences and the good memories, hopefully, and God can work with good. He really can, if you look at it the right way. So that's where I'm at. And, I'm not sure I have a whole lot more to say, and my guitar is sleeping now. So
I think some of those people at Bethany want you to come back. You were the real socialite. I was, as you said, I was off talking to Pastor Anthony, and you were a real socialite. And when I was at the tables having coffee and those Dad's digestive cookies there, I just kind of I just kind of remained kind of quiet, because they all seemed very attracted to you, because I think you were being very transparent and just very open. More open than I was willing to be. I was a little closed off. I had to open up gradually, like a clam. I slowly opened up, but they were really gravitating for you, because you came in there just open heart and stuff, which was good to see, because that's not always the case. Not always the case with people that have been through a lot of stuff, right? So it was good to see it.
I was ready to talk that day for sure.
Yeah,
it was great, and
they were attracted to that. They really were drawn to you. So I was just kind of eating my dad's digestive cookie and listening to what everyone was saying, and and they were saying good things about Pastor Anthony, and they were asking me. They tried to ask me questions, and I'm like, nothing, man. I want nothing. Pretend I'm not here. Pretend I'm not here.
Exactly. More coffee. Nobody's in trouble. Just calm down.
That's right. Some of them did say some stuff like that because of what he said at the pulpit. That was funny. And it was great. Overall, it was absolutely great. Highly recommend that you just obey the Holy Spirit. Things work much better that way. If you obey the Holy Spirit. And no, it did. It was an impartation that it caused me some struggles too, because I'm confronting old things, right? So and I think you saw me, and I think Pastor A, we saw, you can see things in people's posts, right, on Facebook. So it challenges people, and God does want us does want to challenge us so that he can take us to new places. And speaking of new places, I wanted to throw in there, I officially have got the okay by my production team that we'd like to use some of your music. I know that you're going to be, am I allowed to say? You're going to be producing some music in the future. I won't give any more details. That's not for mine to tell. But so we would like to, I'd like to have some of your music for my second short film. I don't know if people know, I just finished executive producing not only Georgian Bay, but also a film called Chuck about an actor that was suicidal and in chronic pain using obviously prescription pain medication. And that's an area that I have some very close connections with. So it was a very easy sort of, yes, I'd love to be a part of this project. So it was a good short film project for me to be a part of. And then so now that I'm working on the second one, I want to be able to use some of your music, and I'll get you a copy of the script so that if there's something in the script that inspires you to write, that's great. But otherwise, we'll just whatever pieces you music songs you want to give us to potentially use. I've talked to my production team, and they're good with that. And there is actually an opening scene where I want the DJ. It's in a small town, and it's a radio station disc jockey, and I want like a hard rock song where the DJ is like playing a guitar, like that's the opening scene. And I'm like, I got to get Dave to do that guitar. Do sort of a what was his name from Back to the Future, that kind of like rock and guitar kind of thing. I want some sort of modern day rock of like, or 80s rock or whatever, rock where they're playing so the DJ can do this kind of thing. I wonder if you can do that song for me.
Well, rock's the magic word here, man. It wouldn't be the first time I've done rock for you, and definitely not the last time I've done it in, no, I can do it. I can definitely do it. And
I was like, don't bring up Let the Music Begin.
Nah, it's all good. I mean, that's really cool that the production team's, looking forward to things, and I'm always writing. So not a lot of people hear the stuff I'm writing, but when I do bring some things out, it sounds cool. And I mean, I'm sure that you've gotten to hear some instrumental type pieces that haven't been put to words yet. But I mean, obviously, I like to talk, and I got lots to say. But I mean, sometimes I just need to hear it and let it sit with me for a second. But
we should say it. I don't know if everyone knows, but there's a lot of songs, instrumental songs in my Greg Who show. It's basically, some of it's been licensed from YouTube, but a lot of it that I keep using and repeating over and over is sort of the theme of Greg Who, or the motif of Greg Who. That's Dave's music. So we are already collaborating, and I'm sure that that collaboration will just enlarge and over time, and God will bless us as we're moving forward, right? But the key is to keep moving forward.
I can't. Definitely, that's the thing here, right? And as stubborn as I can be some days when I wake up, man, it's always worth. I don't know why I keep saying this, take the first step piece, but when I do that, it's like it's almost like there's no regrets to it. Even no matter where it goes, I always feel good about doing it. So definitely when it comes to music.
Kind of like this interview, eh, Dave? How long have we been planning this?
Well, I'm what's called a slow cooker, right? I'm a seasoned type of tenderness. I'm not a,
You like to marinate for a while.
I do. Just my while happens to be 6 months. Doesn't matter. I'm here. So, no, but it's good. And when it comes to music, I've been talking to a lot of guys that are just doing music passionately and writing some fantastic songs. And if the church is in a good place, I mean, or in a new place, sorry, I still think it's good. I think the steps are new, though. There are some absolutely wonderful people that I hope to see just back in some form, just using their talents like in the church, and more so just for their own kind of personal revival. It's amazing when you can sit there and you know that God's given you some kind of talent or some kind of ability, and He has to everybody. Trust me. I'm not the 20-year-old youth group kid anymore with Pastor Anthony. I've seen some things, raised my own boys and such and such, and it takes a lot to be good at the hard things. It's not easy, and I've just been encouraging church musicians who feel like it's been hard, and maybe but I know that they're coming back. I just know, and I'm one of them.
Yep.
I'm not I'm including myself in the picture here, right?
Yeah.
And I hear it all the time. People call me and say, "Hey, don't be a stranger. You should." But all of that said, I've had some wonderful experiences since our trip out to Kitchener-Waterloo. Just talking with people. I've shared the story a few times, and people really get the connection. I never really had any, but I mean, obviously, I didn't share the whole story. I just shared the trip, and the parts that are gold are for me, and I keep them close. I know that they're treasures. Like, I learned some things on that trip, and
did some of the people say you went with who? Greg who?
No, they got it. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a running joke sometimes, right? Because they think I said your last name, and then they're like, who? Like, yeah. It's like, this isn't like a, Abbott and Costello joke. That's not it. Like, it's not what's happening,
Who's on first? That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Greg who? Yeah, it's the tagline right there. Greg who's on first. Yeah. Yeah. But no, it was it was just great, man. Just to see, and Pastor Anthony, I'm using, I'm not going to say as a scapegoat. That was completely a wonderful, orchestrated, I didn't know it was going to happen meeting. But he happens to be the first in kind of a revealing of the way that I look and see people now.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful because I've had a couple more conversations with people since then that have kind of gone along the same way, not in person, face to face.
Right.
That's what made this one so special. But it was wonderful that he happens to be the pastor, where after all of these things, it was hard for him, hard for me, hard for you, hard for his family church. I'm just talking about the couple of years of kind of uncertainty with whatever.
Yep. It
was amazing to see him transition and to see him grow, and even at this stage of his career, which has been wonderful. I summed it up one day for him. I'm like, listen, if you were able as a young man to handle like 500 or 600 screaming teenagers in a gym and God touched it, I'm not really worried about 50 pastors that are looking out to you for support. Like, just dig deep into that. Yeah, exactly. It's definitely a, faith, but it's another F word sometimes that I don't like to go back and think about. It was interesting times, man.
Yeah.
But I loved the connection with them. I loved, what it did for me personally. It just changed the way that I react to so many people. Some of the circumstances of my life just felt lighter afterwards.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
I hope that he watches this whole video to the end and or one day just calls and says thanks for the good words, because
he will, because he still thinks he's in trouble. So.
Because
watching till the end. What did they say about me?
Well, I don't need to say it. Like, I did it because I love him.
Yeah.
And maybe for just a second, I kind of forgot that he loves me and God loves me, and and the Greg Y loves me, I guess. So it's all good.
Absolutely.
No, it was good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, as you know, as a lot of people know, I lost one of my best friends, and that's honestly, and I think I told you the other day too. It's probably one of the reasons why I think I was the first one to reach out to you, because there was such a void in my life from that friendship that was such a brotherly camaraderie that I had with no other. It's hard to have good male friends, right? And I'm sure lots of men feel that way. And but when you find a brother, you find a brother, and so I lost a brother, and I think that's one of the reasons why I reached out to you. And even recently, I reached out to a childhood friend of mine that, like, we grew up together. We know everything about each other's tragic childhoods, right? And I think I told you, I'll probably do a video like this with him, and you'll sort of you guys will be invited into something that's very different and unique about my childhood and his. And but I did have that bond with him. I basically I was put in the crib with this guy.
Wow.
That's how long I've known
Bond.
this guy.
That's Bond. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just put in a crib with him, and so as long as I've been breathing oxygen, I've known this kid, right? So yeah, I've sort of felt that void. I mean, I have to admit that being married is a blessing. And so during COVID, as much as it was still had its challenges, being married helps. I know that being single would be much harder during COVID, and but it made me it gave me that sort of void of missing my friends, which I have so few of. With me, it's always the gracious few, but when I have them, I like really have them. They really know me. And one of those people is who's on my production team that said yes to you, is Lisa DePass. You said you didn't know her, but trust me, I'm pretty sure she knows you. So
Cool.
yeah, so she'd be one of them too. So yeah, friendships are absolutely, friendships are important. And I've often thought of Pastor Anthony being a pastor and having so many friendships. You know what I mean? He has touched so many lives, and there's that balance between being a pastor and being a friend, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I've always admired about him, is he's dealing with a lot of people, and perhaps a lot of people with a lot of problems that they confide in, and he's a pastor and a brother and a friend to so many of us. So it's like I hear what you're saying about, and he's been that way with me. There was times in my life where I was down and out, and he took me to Burger King and bought me a burger and just talked, right? just at the right time, right? So yeah, he's been that way for a lot of people, and so he's a real blessing. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, he is.
All right, so we're not going to convince you to bust open that guitar. I see a halo above the guitar. Maybe that's a sign from God.
I'll put it on there.
Oh, you're the angel, eh?
Yeah, it's I don't know what that is. It's maybe somebody's landing in the backyard, or there's definitely nothing to do with my guitar though.
It's Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire.
There you are. I will say this though. So I'm sitting in like a little studio sunroom type, piece. Yeah. That I built specifically kind of just to be able to communicate and play, and it's one. We still have to do a little taping one day here, just so you can see, how good God's been to me and how beautiful it is. Looking out this window to my right, I can hear the river running through my backyard, and I'm just thinking, what do I have right now that I'm unhappy with? Like, am I grateful? Am I happy? Just in general, a lot of people can't answer that question because they're busy, but busy and happy aren't the same thing. And I'm
Yeah.
not going into another topic. I'm going into I'm not gonna play my guitar, but it would be great at some point. And I'd even say, if you were in this room and we recorded live, I would definitely be ready to play some new stuff. That doesn't mean I'm not going to do it. You know, I'm sure you're going to hear new stuff from Dave. It's just going to come privately to your, you know. But hey, if you're watching the Greg Who show and you like the guitar hooks, then throw Greg a good music buddy, because you never know. Could have been me.
Probably, most likely. I don't think I'm going to use any. I only used those YouTube license ones when I didn't have any stuff from you, right? So as long as you keep me well replenished, I have no reason to go anywhere else.
Yeah, it's like, it's quite a well I've become. It's all good. It's all good.
Hey, man, you can thank me when you're on the IMDb.
Yeah. I didn't know what you meant by that when you first said it a couple weeks ago. I had to go search. I'm like, even though I got it, I check IMDb scores all the time. I was just like, yeah, that's cool. I don't mind. I'm more interested in, supporting projects of artists that are trying to say something. I don't care how you're trying to say it. If you're playing the ukulele, bagpipes, or in front of a camera, or you're giving your real story, like your film Chuck. I told you this about that. I when I saw just the little piece that you showed me, like the little just kind of intro trailer. Man,
that wasn't really a trailer. That was like stills with music.
Yeah, but it was something. It was the birth of something. And the point is, I watched it, and then I thought to myself, like something's happening here. This is a great but very difficult topic to tackle. To the actor that is, kind of doing the lead role is doing a fantastic job, and it's cool, that Greg's got a hand in it, because you only really you're really only going to benefit here, regardless of what happens. Like I get it. It's going to be difficult. It's difficult. Every time somebody, hits record, it's difficult.
Yeah.
Because people like, the way they do things, and the way they do things might not be great on film as it is on guitar, as it is in real life, right?
Yeah.
But that being said, watching that little piece that came out was amazing. And actually, I think, I was playing guitar at the time, and I thought, if Greg ever asks me to do movie stuff, it's going to happen, because I happen to be I don't miss the music and movies type guy. I love when I see people go all out and pull these big orchestras in. And I'm like, you did all that for like 15 seconds of film? I'm like, I could have recorded 18 albums in the time this guy's just, but it's so, it's always so great, right?
Yeah.
So that'll be cool too. I'm low-key saying thank you to the people that, have never heard me, but anticipate something different, because I'm not going to lie. I'm not intimidated by it, obviously. I'm at a point now. I was just telling somebody the story the other day. It's been 30 years since I started playing guitar. I started young, and but in those 30 years, I didn't really feel like I could look at myself, not my own worst critic, like some artists say, paint this beautiful masterpiece and it sits in your bedroom instead of the museum. Or I record songs that I play for people and look up and I see teary eyes and I never ever do anything with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to understand why it's happening. I have no doubts in my mind about why that film's happening. I haven't even seen any of it yet. I don't know the script. I don't know anything. All I know is I listened to that little filmed piece, and I was thinking, it's not. Something's different. Anyway, you know what I'm trying to say. It's very honest when somebody opens up with their honesty, and good Lord, I don't know how anybody could put it on screen, but like they're my hero right away.
Yeah. I think
So
you're
yeah,
also
it was
talking about
cool.
you're also talking about the Indiegogo intro video too, where he really
That's what
put
I'm exactly what
his
I'm talking
heart
about.
on his sleeve. Yeah. So if
Yeah,
anyone also, this is a good time to kind of plug, and I'll put in the description below my interview with Heath. So Heath is a guy that he's in Hollywood. He's got 40 plus credits, and one of the last things that really got my attention was, and I thought it was so cool, was that I've been following for years and talking to him for years, and he finally got a part in Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney Plus Star Wars.
yeah.
And I've been a huge Star Wars fan since I was a kid. My first movie was the original Star Wars in 1977. I was 7 years old. So for him to see a guy that I semi knew, was an acquaintance with, I'm getting to know him much better these days, but like online sort of casual acquaintanceships. And I talked to him on the phone a few times, and then he's like, comes out and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm on Obi-Wan Kenobi." I'm like, "Get out of here." So anyway, that's when I was like, okay, we really need to have you on an interview. Like, this guy's just really fascinating, and we got to have you on an interview for the Greg Who Show. So I did an interview with him on my Greg Who Show channel. So it's Greg Who Show GWS. I had to rebrand it because it's easier to find. So in the description below, I'll put the link to part 1 and part 2 of my interview with Heath. And he's a great guy. He's a character, and he's got a good story. And I look forward to seeing his performance for sure on Chuck and some of these other actors. And you guys will be surprised, for my second short film, I'm going to get a couple other Hollywood names as well. So, and like icons. Well, I can't say it because I don't have them signed on the dotted line yet, but I'm pretty sure I can get them. And
Cool.
it's gonna be good. And yeah, we're gonna use some of your music on that one as well. And it's pretty much already financed, so I can sort of kind of say, I mean, it's just a micro budget kind of thing, but it's pretty much already financed. And Dave's going to be a part of that for sure. Collaboration.
I'll make sure the music's good, man.
Yeah, you better. This is an opportunity. Better. Yeah,
getting well, it's by the day.
It's an opportunity for me, because not only will I be producing it, I'm writing it, and I mean, I've directed other things, including theater and all this kind of stuff, and smaller projects. But this will be my first sort of directorial debut of a short film that'll be on the IMDb. So I am looking forward to that as well.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. But on that note, any final words of wisdom from you or the band?
Oh yeah, right. Well, the band's trouble. I've been talking to it all night. No, I you know, so many great conversations.
Great, yeah, this has been a great conversation.
If we were to take all the conversations we had, like I said, and video them together, it's like, this Dave never stops talking, and that's true. So
no, I'm patient. I'm patient. I'm patient because there's a lot of you have a lot of nuggets, but you gotta. But that's what film is all about, right? You gotta wait for those magic nuggets or those magic moments. You just gotta be there. So I'm naturally sort of patient because I do a lot of that kind of waiting for it. But no, it's well worth it. And as you said, we're friends and we've been buddies for years. And the years that I didn't see you, I guarantee you, I was kind of like, yeah, I wonder what Dave's doing and stuff. And I think I did call you and some people that you knew as well. And I was always trying to get together with T, always trying to reinvent that Cafe Cravings again. StevesTea.com.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
I was trying to reinvent that tea thing.
Well, those were good times, man. And
yeah,
you know, I think that, you know, I'm just excited, like how we started. I'm genuinely excited, even though I can't see it. I don't know what's happening. I just feel excited.
Yeah,
and
that's good.
That's coming. Good. I mean, you know me. That's coming from, you know, from, I'm not going to say hard road. It's coming from kind of a struggled climb, let's say. it's not easy for anybody. Some people it's, maybe a little bit harder, but that's fine. God's not in the business of giving up, and he's not intimidated by my hardness. He just wants me to be open. And
Yeah.
he says that he'll make me soft. He can reach in and change, if I'm stone on the inside, he can, like this, make me soft and back to life. So I guess those would be my closing words. Like, it's worth it. Whatever's on your heart is worth it. And I'm specifically talking about things that that challenge you, if you need to deal with yourself. And I'm specifically talking about anybody else that's on the list that, needs forgiveness just as much for them as it is for you. Like, I know that sounds like old church talk, but man, isn't that the truth? Calling somebody up and saying, hey, I just want to be a bigger part of your story. Like, I want to encourage you. And sometimes, that'll cost you time. Sometimes it'll cost you money. Sometimes it'll bring you blessing. And I have a feeling all of those things are true. But when it comes to people, man, it's so worth it. It's always going to be worth it. So, hopefully even this, little video piece touches people, and I couldn't think of anything better than somebody, shooting a little message saying, "Oh, Dave, I heard a jingle ears on the Greg Who thing, and that was cool." Those things go a long way with me.
Yeah, they really do. Absolutely.
So I guess those are kind of my final words, right? But I like my parting words would be, you have no idea how you're going to affect somebody.
That's right.
You just have to do it in a good way, talking good things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, somebody needs help, somebody needs the support, somebody needs the opportunity, and if they're your friend for 20 years, 20 days, you just met them in traffic and their car is broken down, like, take the time to do it. And hey, it might not be the easiest thing in the world, but that's not what we're built for. We're built to confront some pretty big solutions, and some big problems with some pretty great solutions. And that's why I'm glad, the artistic part in you and I is kind of coming out in different ways. Yeah. We're definitely both on track here to be support in some interesting areas. So, and I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't think of a better life, actually. So,
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can top that. So I don't know if I can top that. So we will say that's a good ending note. And we will say good night and may God bless.
Okay, buddy. God bless.
Good night, folks.
Night, Greg.
Yeah, sure. How do you keep plugging along without plugging along? How do you do that? We're plugging along here, chugging like an old choo-choo train and taking it on the next track.